Mr. Benson, going to do a cold start and a more extensive video on the care and feeding of the domesticated Solex carburetors. We got nut freezing like, or below freezing like the last video was, but cold start anyway. Critical things to mention. Fuel, fresh fuel, clean fuel. Otherwise, your carburetors in your car will not like it. When you're installing the air log, after the carburetors are installed and they're still loose, install your air log on the studs that I don't have installed here, but install your air log on the studs, snug it down, and then pull the air log off and snug down the carburetors all the way around, then retry your air log, because if you don't have these aligned properly, the air log will not fit. And speaking of installation, your quarter-inch drive wobble sockets are great for getting in here and reaching these hard to get to bolts and nuts. Quarter-inch drive is just fine. You don't need half-inch or 3/8 inch. Fuel, installing the fuel lines, the fuel line to the Solex to the fuel fitting. Stabilize the fitting that's in the float bolt cover, and then do your twisting here, because otherwise you have the possibility of ripping the threads out of the float bolt. Choke cable. Choke cable goes straight down, but then when you pull on it, it tries to make an arc, and that makes it difficult to pull from the dash. So be sure your cable is lubricated all through the up to the dash. You have some adjustments you can make here to adjust the angle of dangle on the lever so the your cable lines up. Let's see. Let's go over parts of the carburetor that we're going to be dinking with. First off, we'll be adjusting the idle mixture screws. Let's see if I can get this. Switch hands. Okay, idle mixture screws. One on each carburetor. This one is closed off on the second barrel of each carburetor. The car only idles on the first barrel and of each carburetor, and therefore the idle mixture screw on the first barrel is one that we will be adjusting. And we'll be adjusting it in till the engine stumbles, bring it out till the engine stumbles, then get the midpoint and start tuning the car from there. This is not a cast in stone situation. You can adjust this at your convenience. We've got the idle speed right here, and the idle speed simply adjusts the how much the throttle is open on the first barrel, and what we want to do is synchronize the airflow through the first barrel of each carburetor. And the way we do that is with the world's greatest tool here, the synchrometer, and the version you want is the BK 1 to 35, and you can get this from Pierce Manifolds directly from them. It's about $60 all in. You'll use this tool for the rest of your life. The other item we can mention up here are the idle jets, G55 idle jets. We've bounced these up to G65 to try to process a little bit more fuel, because we're all using oxygenated fuel. If for some reason the car refuses to idle but will rev up, then one of these is plugged up. It's got a very tiny hole. It's real easy to service. You just unscrew it, pull it out, and there is a very tiny hole there that gets clogged real easily. Again, fresh fuel and filtered fuel and clean fuel. And you just blow out that hole and screw it back in and snug it down. Drop my screwdriver. Okay. And this is not the correct size screwdriver for the application, just happens to be the one I've got right here. So don't, okay, just snug it down. This is not an overflow tube, that's a vent tube, and make sure the vent tube and your venting system is free of dirt and mud daubers. And let's see, we're going to adjust the carburetors using this tachometer and using this scale right here, RPM scale, and we'll be using the low scale, 200, 400, 600, etc. So we can get the idle where we want it, and we can show you how the idle mixture screws work. So let's see, be sure to put your support rod underneath the carburetors to the air log. I would recommend getting new gaskets that go back here between the carbs and the intake manifold. Use factory gaskets. The aftermarket don't seem to hold up very well. Don't forget your spacer tubes and limit stop washers that go in there. I'll include that with instructions for mounting the carburetors. Okay, I think, let's see, so we got I think we got everything covered. Let's see how we start on a cold start. Oh, that's right, I forgot to mention. That's right. There's some other things I forgot to mention. Okay. Back here, right back here is your cold start idle. The cold start high idle screw right here. This little guy right there works off of the lever that opens up the throttle, and that's the only thing that's making you have a high idle on cold start. Is simply when you pull up on your choke lever, it opens this it opens the throttle. That's all it's doing. These counterweights right here have to have a little bit of clearance. You can see just a little bit of clearance right there. You don't want them too tight. And the reason for that is because when you accelerate the throttle wide open, and all barrels are open, then you chop the throttle, there's a screw right here that's attached to the first barrel, and that screw acts on a pin down here, and that artificially closes the second barrel. So if you have no clearance down here, or this is tight, what happens is that you will, as you screw in this screw right here, you will close the second barrel, and then as you screw it in too far, you'll start to open up the first barrel artificially, and that's going to goof you up on trying to adjust your idle. So make sure you got just a smidge of clearance back here. And this is a jam screw that holds it from spinning, and then you unloosen this, and then you can adjust this guy. But I'll have that done for you, but just so you know that that's there and that's what it does. Okay. Now let's see if we can start these bad boys and get you. We have to get them up to operating temperature before you can do any adjustments, because we've got warm water, hot water going through the intake, and to get the carburetors up to temperature. So switch on, choke. Remember, these are no machine work carburetors. So considering they're cold and you got idle, that's pretty darn good. So I'm going to get warm it up. for a start. Now then, disconnect your throttle linkage. Where we are running independently. We're going to make sure our second barrels are closed. Remember, we didn't do any machine work, so we want as little airflow as possible through here. The factory was good at getting them to about 3 or less. This one's not sealing properly because there's wear inside the throat of the carburetor, but again, no machine work. And this one's at 6. And they're sealing as well as they're going to be no matter what we do. So that's what we got to deal with. Now then, we want to make sure the airflow through the first barrel of each carburetor is the same, balanced. So we're running 7 there. And 6 there. So I'm going to reduce this one here. Reduce the airflow through there. So we're at 6 there. Make sure it's on camera. Six there. So we're balanced. Now then, we're going to adjust the idle mixture screw. And we're going to use the tachometer. You notice when I let go of the throttle linkage, it jump the idle a little bit. You got to make sure your throttle is closed while you're doing your adjustment. So right now we're running 700, 750, 800. So we're going to adjust the idle mixture screw, and you'll watch the idle change as I adjust the screw in and out. We want the best idle speed, best running, and you'll be able to hear the engine change as well. Air idle dropping off. So I was screwing the mixture screw in, now we're backing it out. You hear the idle pick up, and it'll drop off again if we go too far. There we go, starting to drop off again. It'll go back in. Let's get where it's running the best. Pretty good right there. You see picking up RPM. So you can keep, all I'm doing is just adjusting this thing in and out. All I'm doing is adjusting this screw in and out. Right here. So I'll do it again. This time we'll hear the engine falter. Okay, back it out. So then runs the best. And then we will rev it up. But at the same time, I'm going to see if I can't decrease the RPM. Now that we've adjusted that, I'm going to back off on the idle screws. It's still running, well, it's running about 7. We picked up that much. Now, okay, we just had to pull up harder on the throttle rod, so that's a little bit, but around 6. That's around 5. See, this one will back off even more. There's a limit to what these carburetors will do. So there's 5.5, 6. There's 5. Bounce that one up a little bit. We're running RPMs around 8. Now the next thing we're going to do is, that's why we've got a turnbuckle here on this linkage, so we can turn this in and out and get it exactly adjusted for when you snap this into place. So we want to get that. So now we want to snap this, adjust the turnbuckle up and down where this just snaps into place and nothing changes. Nothing change, lock that off. Double check that. Yep, see, I didn't have it adjusted properly. You hear the RPM change. This may be the hardest part of the whole job. Lock that off. Obviously you use a wrench for running 800 RPM. So that's about where the factory says to set it. Switch over to high scale and rev it up. And if we've got this adjuster right, we won't have any popping and we'll have smooth acceleration. Back to our low scale. Make sure our throttle is closed. Now run a little bit higher, a little bit 850, 900, still within the range, but that's the problem with having no machine work done on the carburetors. Just make sure it's not the throttle linkage. Again, pop this off. So a little bit of throttle linkage was part of the issue. We're running back at 800 now, so you can see how critical getting the throttle linkage set up is. Like I said, it's probably the hardest part. Anyway, we got good carburetors, good response. Let's try a hot start. Oh, sorry, didn't had my ignition on. Ah. My bad. Forgot to turn the ignition back on. Another hot start. Alright. Cut you some good carburetors considering they didn't have any machine work done to them. I did get you new throttle shafts in there, but the old butterflies and the old bodies, nothing was done to them. I did get all the flat surfaces dressed down to where the flow ball covers are flat. Should have no problem there. They're seepage. So anyway, thanks for sending them to me.